Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. In today's lesson, we are going to be talking about the gold industry from the time that it goes in the ground or the ore is found in the ground all the way through its production into a variety of different products. So without further ado, let's get into the lesson. Okay, so here we can see a map of the world with the countries that have the largest gold reserves. So yellow is gold, brown is silver, and green is copper. As you can see, Australia has the largest amount of gold reserves in the entire world, followed by China and then Russia. And if you're wondering how these countries get their hands on all this gold, well, it's pretty simple. It's because they own most of the mines where it comes from. Here we have a picture of the top 10 gold mining companies. The first one being Barrick Gold Corporation, which is based out of Canada. Then we have Newmont Corporation, also based out of the United States. Also notice how many of these gold mining companies are actually from China. So now that we know where it comes from, it's time to move on to the next step in the process. So here we have a picture of the steps of the gold mining process. Now, obviously, I cannot go into every single detail of the gold mining process in just one small video, but I can hit some of the major highlights and processes that take place when turning raw ore into gold. The first thing we have here is mining. Now, there's two different types of mining that we use in order to get our gold. We have surface mining and underground mining. So surface mining is when we remove the top layer of soil, or the topsoil, in order to access the ore underneath. Now the reason why we do this is because gold is what we call a low-grade mineral. This means that the concentration of gold in the ore is relatively small, so we need to remove lots of rock in order to find even a tiny bit of gold. Therefore, because we have to remove so much material, it makes it easier to use large pieces of equipment such as excavators and bulldozers to strip away the top layer of the earth. After the surface layer has been removed, then we go in and we extract the ore using large drills, and then we use explosives in order to break up the rock and make it easier to remove. Once the rocks have been broken up, then we put them onto a conveyor belt system which takes it to another area where they will crush it into smaller pieces. The next step is called leaching, which is when we use a special type of cyanide solution in order to dissolve the gold out of the crushed up rocks. The reason why we use cyanide is because it's the perfect chemical substance for extracting gold. Next, after we've extracted the gold from the cyanide solution, then we send it off to a refinery in order to purify the gold. So now that we understand the surface mining methods, let's talk about underground mining. Underground mining is used when the gold is too deep below the surface in order to use traditional surface mining techniques. So in this case, we would have to dig tunnels and shafts in order to reach the gold that's underneath the surface. And once we reach the gold, then we would use similar techniques as we would in surface mining, where we would drill holes and then blow up the rocks in order to extract the gold. Once we've removed the gold from the ground, then it's time to ship it off to the refinery. At the refinery, the gold is melted down and then cast into ingots. All right, so now that we know all about how gold is extracted from the ground, let's move on to the next step, which is manufacturing. So once the gold reaches the manufacturer, it's time to turn the raw material or the gold into a finished product. For example, jewelry or electronics. Now, when it comes to the gold industry, it's extremely important that we use a process called line production. Line production is a method of manufacturing that uses specialized equipment in order to transform raw materials into a finished product along a production line. So basically what this means is that instead of having one worker who does one single task over and over again, we bring all of those tasks together into one production line. For example, here we have an assembly line where a group of workers are assembling computer parts into a finished computer. Each worker only does one task, and as soon as they complete that task, the item moves on to the next worker. So at the beginning of the line, we load all of the parts, and then at the end of the line, we have a finished computer. One of the biggest advantages to this type of production is that it allows us to produce a large quantity of products very quickly. In addition to this, we don't have to worry about training our employees to do multiple tasks because each worker only has to learn one. Now, before we continue on with the lesson, I want to quickly ask you guys for a favor. If you are enjoying this video and you've learned something new, then please make sure to leave a like, comment down below, and subscribe to my channel. These actions really help to support me and allow me to continue making videos like this for you guys. Okay, so let's get back to the lesson. Now let's look at a real-life example of line production in the gold industry. So here we have a diagram of a gold refinery where they make gold bars. So over here on the left-hand side, we have the raw materials, which in this case is gold. Next, we have the production process, which includes several different steps. We have weighing, melting, refining, mixing, electrolysis, casting, drying, inspection, and then packaging. And then finally we have the finished product, which is the gold bar. So let's say we have a customer who comes in and places an order for 1 gold bar. First, we start off by weighing the gold to make sure that we have enough raw materials to fulfill the order. Then we melt down the gold until it reaches a liquid state. Next, we send the gold through a series of filters in order to remove any impurities or unwanted substances. After the gold has been refined, then we add in any additional gold that we need in order to reach the desired weight of the gold bar. Next, we mix the gold with other metals in order to increase its durability. Then we send the mixture through a machine called an electrolytic refinery in order to separate the gold from the other metals. Next, we rinse the gold and dry it in order to prepare it for the next step. Then we cast the gold into the shape of a bar. Next, we send the gold bars to the drying oven where we remove any excess moisture. After the gold bars have been dried, then we inspect them to make sure that they meet the required standards. And finally, if the gold bars pass inspection, then we package them and we send them off to the customer. All right, so now that we understand the different steps involved in the production process, let's take a look at how line production affects each step. So as you can see, each step in the process is performed by a specialized worker who is trained to do only that task. For example, we have one worker who is responsible for weighing the gold, another worker who is responsible for melting the gold, and another worker who is responsible for adding the additional gold in order to reach the desired weight. And by having each worker specialize in one task, it allows the production process to move much faster. And this is one of the main advantages of using line production. Another advantage is that since each worker only has to learn one task, it makes it much easier to train new employees. And finally, by using line production, it allows us to produce a large quantity of gold bars very quickly. And that's it. That's how the gold industry works, from the time it comes out of the ground all the way through its production into a finished product. And that's it. That's the end of the video. If you enjoyed this video and you've learned something new, then please make sure to leave a like, comment down below and subscribe to my channel. I would really appreciate it. And if you want to keep learning, then I highly recommend checking out some of my other videos. And if you want to go ahead and start learning some vocabulary, then feel free to click on this link right here. And if you want to watch more videos like this, then click on this link right here. That's it. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.